Richard Gordon, the author and founder of Quantum Touch, and today I'd like to explore a mystery with you. A mystery that's so amazing. A mystery that fascinates me every day of my life. And that mystery involves the life force energy, otherwise known primarily as ki, chi, or prana. The Japanese have called that energy ki, the yogis have called it prana, the Chinese have called it chi. It's been around for thousands of years in innumerable modalities. Most recently, people refer to Reiki or acupuncture, acupressure. There's so many different ways of using it: polarity therapy, therapeutic touch, and of course quantum touch and others. The thing about the energy that I find so amazing is that it doesn't necessarily just work with what we think it should do and what we want it to do and what we expect it to do. It works with what I like to think of as body intelligence, or perhaps much more accurately as spiritual intelligence. That's the intelligence of the universe. So you might be working on someone's headache, running energy into their head, and find out that their sinus pain went away. That's happened hundreds of times. We've even seen when a person's working on the head that the eyesight has changed. In one case, a woman was working on another woman's neck, and her hearing came back, and she hadn't been able to hear since she was a teenager and had been hit by a drunk driver. Now, one of the most interesting things about this is that the energy goes where it's needed, does what's needed, but it isn't based on our beliefs or expectations. In other words, this is non-enculturated intelligence of the universe doing healing. And it works in ways that we neither think about, expect, or even imagine. So there are so many aspects of a cell, for example. But there's so many more aspects of a cell that we've never even thought about or understood. No one knows where the brain of the cell is. No one knows how a cell heals itself. How you even heal a cut on your finger is still a great mystery. But the intelligence of the system is thousands, millions, perhaps billions of times brighter than we are. And I want to tell you a couple stories that happened that illustrate this very well. A friend of mine was helping me edit my first Quantum Touch book, and she was coming down with terrible allergies. She had been a nurse herself, and she decided that what she was going to do was going to, quote, medicate herself. I called her up and said, "Would you come over and help me edit this next section of the book?" She goes, "No, I'm going to medicate myself." "What does that mean?" She says, "Well, I'm going to take these medications that will knock me out for 2 or 3 days. When I come back, I probably won't have so much allergy." I said, "Well, have you taken the medication yet?" She said, "No, not yet." I said, "Well, listen, don't take it. Let me do some energy healing." We went back and forth, and she finally decided she would wait to take the medication and I would do healing on her. So I said, if you don't feel better in 1 hour, you can go take your medication, but give me 1 hour. So I did some distant healing on her since she wasn't feeling well enough to come over. I ran the energy for about 20 minutes. I was continuing, and then my phone rings. I pick it up, and there she is saying, "Oh my God, all my allergy symptoms are completely gone. But my back pain disappeared too." Now, I had no thought about her back pain. But here's the kicker of the story, the part that I'm getting to. The next day, she calls me up and said, "Richard, the weirdest thing just happened." I go, "What's that?" She said, "All the calluses fell off my feet." "What do you mean the calluses?" "Well, they're kind of like hanging off my feet or in the bed, the skin." I go, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, it all came off. My feet are all soft underneath." Wow, I hadn't thought about that as being an aspect of healing. Well, I don't know, if you're like me, you kind of tuck these interesting stories away in case they ever mean something more to you at a later date. So it was a few years later, and I was working on my friend Vinny, and he wanted to see what distant healing felt like. So I gave him a distant healing session, and he said, well, he felt a little better, but he wasn't really sure if anything had happened. He said, "Oh, but come to think of it, The next day, something really odd did happen. I go, what's that? He said, I was walking around, and this guy walks barefoot all the time. He's walking around, and he feels like he's dragging something with his feet. And he looks down, and the whole bottom part of the skin had fallen off, and he was dragging it like a piece of leather behind the foot. It was kind of held on by part of the heel. And at first he was concerned because he likes to walk in the snow and walk on rocks, and he has all this callus buildup on the bottom of his feet. And a whole bunch of skin came off, and he thought, oh my God, maybe I won't have enough, insulation or strength of whatever down there to keep myself from feeling too much pain when I walk barefoot. But it was just the right amount that had come off. And then I told him the story of what had happened with my friend who did the editing, and we put it together. Now consider, why would the body want the skin to come off the bottom of the feet? Well, the feet have all these neuroreceptors where you get the stimulation, like from reflexology, where the feet get stimulated. And it would make a great deal of sense from the body's point of view to get that extra skin off the feet so that you can get the additional stimulation when you walk to affect the life force energy of the whole body. In other words, the spiritual intelligence of the system does the healing. So when we're doing a quantum touch session, we're using a very complicated technique I like to call the where does it hurt technique, where we surround the tissue, we sandwich the area that's suffering. But that's not to say that that's where the healing is necessarily going to go. One man recently told me that his teeth were misaligned and his jaw was misaligned, and just for fun he started running energy into his jaw, and his retainer no longer fit and his teeth were perfectly aligned. And this guy's a skeptic, and every time he starts doubting whether or not quantum touch actually works, he puts the retainer back in his mouth to confirm that it actually worked. So the part that I'm really wanting to get to as the theme of this little talk is that we really don't know the limits of what's possible, that the spiritual intelligence of the universe directs the energy. We do our best to hold the energy, to give it to the person as a gift, but their body intelligence and spiritual intelligence ultimately directs the healing, which is why we like to say that the definition of a healer is someone who was sick and got well, and a great healer was someone very sick who got well quickly. We hold the resonance through the breathing and body awareness and let their body intelligence direct that energy for its highest good. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, and I hope to meet you someday. Thanks a lot.